These players will go absolutely insane in fantasy football this week. I don't care how big your league is. If it's 2 people, if it's 16 people, you're going to be starting these guys because they will go absolutely nuclear in week 14. Make sure to stick around to the end of the video as well because I will go over my number 1 secret start of the week that may be able to put you over 20 points that not enough people are talking about. If you do appreciate this video and want to be generous today, hit that like button. It helps me out so much. But I won't waste your time. Jakobi Meyers is going to be the number 1 nuclear stash of the week. He's going to smash all of his projections. Now, some people might be a little bit hesitant in starting this guy because he did not practice on Thursday with his ankle injury. That is a real concern. We're going to be completely honest here. Friday is going to be the big teller of if he does play and how much he is going to play, but there is a big chance, better than not, that he is going to be fully healthy, ready to go in this matchup. In an amazing matchup at that against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They are top 3 in points allowed to wide receivers this year. Just look at the numbers that they've posted over the last few weeks. They allow the 3rd most passing yards to opposing offenses at 258.3 per game. They allow the 5th most total yards per game to opposing offenses at 375, and the 8th most total points allowed at 24.7. Last week, Adam Thielen, he went for 8 receptions, 99 yards, and a touchdown, putting up 23.9 fantasy points. Neighbors, the week before that, had 6 receptions for 64 yards in a week that Tommy DeVito was that quarterback. He only had 198 passing yards total. And we'll continue this. The week before that, Juwan Jennings had 7 receptions for 93 yards. DeAndre Hopkins, the week before that, had 8 receptions for 86 yards, 2 touchdowns. You guys get the point here. That's only the last 4 weeks. I could keep going for so many more games. But really what is good about Jakobi Meyers this week is that the Raiders are 3rd in passing attempts per game. We look, more passing attempts equals more receptions and more opportunities for the wide receiver position. Meyers is the wide receiver 6 in total routes run per game, likely because of all of that passing volume they're supposed to have and they need to have to stay in these games, due to the fact that the Raiders are projected to lose every single game by a good amount. Now we come into this matchup. They are projected to lose by 7 points. They are underdogs by 7, a whole touchdown. The game total is 44 points this week. They're going to be playing from behind, sticking to the pass volume, meaning Jakobi Meyers is going to have a lot more opportunities. It's an amazing matchup. He's an amazing player in his underlying statistics. He is a top 10 guy for me this week, but another wide receiver that is a must start regardless of your league size. The last time I had him in one of these must start videos, he put up 31.5 fantasy points. That is Darnell Mooney, the man himself. And guess what? That 31.5 fantasy points was coming against the Buccaneers. But he gets an even better matchup this week against the Minnesota Vikings defense, who allows the 2nd most opposing points to wide receivers this year. The way you beat the Vikings is through the pass game. They allow the number 1 least amount of rushing yards to opposing running backs at 81.3 and the 3rd least running back fantasy points per game. So you got to go from the passing volume here. Luckily, they have an extremely talented running back in Bijan Robinson to mitigate some of that risk and the inefficiency in the run game. But some people are especially worried about this start if you look at how bad Kirk Cousins has been playing, and that's a very valid concern. This guy has not thrown a passing touchdown since week 9, November 3rd against the Cowboys, but he is expected for the 5th highest passing volume on the week at 36 passing attempts, again suggesting high opportunity, high volume, and high reception numbers for this guy right here. But Mooney, being the wide receiver 2 behind Drake London, actually does help his fantasy football value because Drake London is going to take the primary defensive focus. You look at guys like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Higgins is actually outperforming Chase in his healthy games, averaging almost 20 fantasy points a game. Because Jamar Chase is such a talented guy, you have to focus on him on the defense. But in this matchup here, both defenses are going to be struggling against the pass. The Falcons and the Vikings are both not good in stopping those statistics, and it is Kirk's revenge game against his former team in the Vikings. It's a high projected game total as well. Mooney is also a pretty good touchdown threat. This is a strong mix of wide receiver upside and opportunity here. He will dominate, but another guy, wide receiver, that will dominate is Ladd McConkey against a pretty good defense in the Chiefs. His numbers over the last 3 games have been undeniable. He's averaging 9 targets a game along with 108 receiving yards and 17.8 fantasy points in PPR leagues. That is insane in that 3-game stretch. All of that doing without a touchdown being scored. But what's even more impressive, last week he was able to put up 20.7 fantasy points off 12 targets. Justin Herbert only had 23 total passing attempts, and he also had 117 of Justin Herbert's 147 total pass yards. Like, he is a dominant wide receiver. He's a safe play in a Chiefs matchup where you'd think it's a pretty tough one, but the Chiefs have been absolutely falling off as far as defensive efficiency and just total defensive rankings as of the last few weeks. They're allowing almost 30 fantasy points a game to wide receivers. They're the 12th best matchup to outside wide receivers, and they're top 10 to those slot wide receivers. That is exactly where Ladd McConkey plays. But you look at Ladd McConkey, 63% of his total yards, total receptions, and most importantly, total touchdowns have come from inside the slot position. he plays all around the field, but the slot is where he sees a ton of his success. The last time he played this team in week 4, he put up 17.7 fantasy points on 7 targets, 67 yards, and a touchdown. Like, those are really good numbers. The Chargers will likely be playing from behind, or at least close in this matchup, so they're not going to 100% stick to the run game like we've seen them do in previous games. If Ladd does happen to miss this game with injury, which he is dealing with, Will Dissly is going to be the 100% one-to-one fill-in for him. I'd love to start Will Dissly if he does happen to miss, so keep that in mind. But I will continue to scream this guy's names from whatever rooftop I'm standing on. Bucky Irving, he was the focal point of last week's video, dropping 27.5 fantasy points, NFC Player of the Week as well tacked onto that. He's going to be in this list again. Surprisingly, he's only being started in 68% of leagues according to Sleeper's active roster ownership base. That should be way more. That should be 100. He comes into another good matchup against the Raiders here. It's no Panthers defense from what was last week, but still a positive one. They're allowing the 4th most points per game to opposing offenses at 28.1. They are outside the top 10 in sacks per game, pressure rate, and they allow over 330 yards in the air. And if you look at Bucky Irving, he has been absolutely efficient over his last 3 games. He's averaging 6.3 yards per carry and 4.9 yards after contact. That is absolutely crazy. And even if you include his entire season statistics, he's still a top 5 running back in yards per carry at 5.5. And a great part about this start and this matchup is that the Buccaneers are favored to win this game by a touchdown. Like we talked about with Jakobi Meyers and the Raiders having to play from behind, leading to more pass volume, more likely than not, the Buccaneers are going to be up in this game, playing slow, leaning on the run, which is Bucky Irving. The Bucs themselves are tied for the 5th highest single team total of the week at 65.5 points projected. There's a very high chance that Bucky Irving falls into the end zone and has an even better day, but there is also on the other side another chance that he does end up missing this week with a hip and back injury. If that does happen, we will be starting Rachaad White. He's not going to be as good as a nuclear start, but still worth it if Bucky Irving is not going to be in this offense. The health of Mike Evans is also a factor in Bucky Irving's success. If Mike Evans is ruled out of this game, I'm going to be moving him down just a little bit, but still a must-start guy. Let me know your start-sit questions in the comments so I can answer 100% of the specific ones you guys are asking me. I love to answer those questions for you guys. But looking at another running back, we should have completely emptied our pockets for on the waiver wire last week is Isaac Guerendo. No Christian McCaffrey, no Jordan Mason. It is completely RB1 season for this guy, and he's only being started in 44% of leagues right now. That should be 100%, if not 90. Please, somewhere over 50% at least. In the 12 games this season that the 49ers have played, whoever their starting running back has been has averaged 21 rushing attempts per game and over 3 targets per game. That is an insane backfield. Regardless of who this running back is, they run a workhorse system. The 49ers will have one running back, and he will be electric. Isaac Guerendo has had a very strong start, an efficient start to his season as a rookie. He's averaging 7.6 yards per carry in his starts as far as filling in for his starting running backs. But if you add his entire season statistics, he's still averaging 5.9 yards per carry on the season and always rips for these breakaway runs that we see him do every week. Now he comes into his first game as a true starter against the Bears defense, who allow 5 yards per carry to opposing running backs. That efficiency is very, very great. The Lions went for 175 on them last week. The Vikings went for 125 and a touchdown the week before that. The Patriots had 120. The Packers had 93 and a touchdown. I could keep going. Again, this is only their last 4-game stretch. The way that this offense operates, they breed running backs and they breed efficiency. He has a very good chance of finding the red zone, again, because of how this team plays. But my secret start of the week, the guy that we need to be starting regardless of what size league you're in, that I have way higher than consensus, is a quarterback. It is going to be Sam Darnold. He's pretty much my quarterback 5 coming into this week 14 matchup. He has been one of the most consistent quarterbacks this year as of late, especially totaling 2 or more touchdowns in his last 5 of 6 games that he's played. That's good for the QB6 in passing touchdown rate per attempt. And a stat that nobody does talk about is that he's the quarterback 10 in passing attempts on the year inside the 10-yard line, and consistently a top 10 quarterback in passer rating per week. That means he's not making a ton of mistakes, and if he does, he makes it up with the touchdowns and with his other efficiency all over the field. Those are the things that you need for quarterbacks that aren't insane rushing guys like a Lamar Jackson or like a Jaden Daniels. And you just look at this guy's weapons. He has Justin Jefferson, he has Jordan Addison, he has TJ Hawkinson, all guys and receivers that have had at least one 1,000-yard receiving season in their careers. He's coming into a very, very positive matchup here against the Falcons. They allow the 3rd most points to opposing quarterbacks at 18.9 points per game, but more importantly, they allow 70.5% pass completion to quarterbacks this year. That is unheard of. That is absolutely insane. There shouldn't be a lot of errors here. And it's not like they've been playing top 3 defenses for the entire season. In their last couple games, they played the Chargers, followed by the Broncos, the Saints, and the Cowboys. Like, All of those guys. Bo Nix is the best quarterback in that group, and he's a rookie quarterback. So this game total here is at 47 points, which is easily top 10 in the total NFL this week. And again, they are one of the teams that's tied with the Buccaneers for the single highest team total at 26 points. That's going to be great. Everything is pointing green in this matchup for Sam Darnold. I obviously like starting Justin Jefferson, TJ Hockenson, maybe even Jordan Addison at a flex because of that. That is going to finish off this video, though. Thank you guys so much for sticking around in this one. I will see you guys in next week's video, possibly even tomorrow. All glory to the man above.